Hello, welcome to another episode of Montana Shares, your opportunity to find out about the nonprofits that make our state great. I'm your host, Bill Crane, and today I have Coleen with Youth Connections. Welcome, Coleen.
Thank you.
We've got the Christmas tree here.
I know, very exciting.
I was pondering this on the way over, that Christmas probably has different meanings for every nonprofit around town and around the states. Let's just start out. What does it mean for you and Youth Connections?
Well, I mean, it's always an exciting time, but what we hear from the teachers and stuff is it's really a struggle at school. They start seeing a lot of kids struggling with mental health issues and just trying to deal with a lot. So just a challenge that way. And then we work with the kid packs, not Youth Connections, but our office is over at Helena Middle School. And so they'll be putting together kid packs for kids that may or may not get food between when school lets out and when they go back in. So
Probably the true failure of our society is the backpack program. The success that it's there to solve it, but the problem definitely breaks my heart every time I hear about it. So what's probably the biggest focus for you right now with Youth Connections?
Well, we've got several things going right now. We're in the middle of a grant that we got from Cardinal Healthcare to do some education about prescription drug disposal. And so we just finished up a poster contest for kindergarten through 5th grade. And actually tomorrow we're going to go and award our last two first prize winners. And so the kids' parents got to choose of our winners whether they got a $150 gift certificate from one of the local businesses downtown, Lasso the Moon or Montana Book and Toy or Capital Sports. And so we're going to go and award those. And then our committee had a hard time trying to decide on winners. And so we had some runners up and they got gift certificates to Frozen Moose, and everybody gets a pencil. And so it's kind of fun.
Good. Nice thing to wrap up. So speaking of prescription drugs, probably one of the big focus areas for you.
Yes, it is. When we looked at our data from 2014, it showed that our 8th graders reported misusing and abusing prescription drugs at 4 times the state average, which was concerning to us. And that was really before it got on everybody's radar. And so we did have a small grant to do some work at that time, and the numbers have come down. So we're happy about that. But what we hear from teachers and law enforcement is they're easy to get, they're easy to hide, kids can take them, you can't smell them on your breath. And so, they look at them and say, well, something's just not right, but I'm not sure what it is. So it's a challenge.
Right. And obviously education, probably of parents as much as anything, is the key element.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else on the horizon for solutions to this? Can you give any novel thought to it?
Well, there's a lot from the national level. They've really upped some funding around it, and education, which is one thing that we talked about. And one of the pieces that we're doing with this grant is we developed a flyer that we will take to funeral homes and the coroners and hospice, so that if a loved one passes away, you know what to do with that entire box of prescription drugs, where before it might have just gotten thrown away or flushed down the toilet, neither of which is the correct way to properly dispose of them. So it's getting it out of reach of kids, and then educating kids and parents that even though it's a prescription, it's still a drug, and it doesn't make it safe. So a lot of education around that.
So I'm guessing odds are most of the people that watch this show are adults. So why don't you give your spiel on what is the correct way to dispose of prescription drugs?
Well, the best way is to either take it to a drug take-back event, which we do them twice a year. The DEA sponsors them. Law enforcement has to work the event because it's a controlled substance. So they're done in October and in April, but if you can't wait until then, there are permanent drop boxes at the Law Enforcement Center and also at Geneva Woods Retail Pharmacy, which used to be Burgum Drug. So you can just take them in there, no questions asked, just put your drugs in there, and then they're incinerated and disposed of that way. If you can't happen to get there, you can crush them up and put them with coffee grounds and used kitty litter, anything that makes them not palatable for somebody to take. Yeah.
Right, and then that would normally go in your regular garbage waste stream, not flushed.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, not flushed. And And the other thing is to just keep them safe. I mean, especially with the holidays, if you're having Christmas parties and you've got people in your house, or even if you're selling your house, I know a lot of realtors will tell you to get rid of your prescription drugs so that they're not out there and available. But even if you're traveling and staying in a hotel, you need to either put those and lock them in the safe, or keep them with you, or lock them in your car out of the way that nobody knows that they're there. So there's a lot to think about.
All these things you don't think about
Exactly.
that you should think about.
Right.
Okay, great. So what about, like, during this time of year, alternative activities for the kids?
Yep, well, we hear all the time there's nothing to do. And
Right.
so one of the things, and you can't do it just alone because it won't change kids' behavior as far as doing drugs and alcohol, but if there's things for them to do, if they're involved in positive things, they're not involved in negative things. So we've been trying to hold an event once a month, either for high school or middle school kids. And in December, we're going to do a Minute to Win It games. So the kids can come and do that. We did a trivia night in November. We're going to do another one of those, I think, in East Helena. We will do a dodgeball tournament the end of January for middle school. Last year we did one on Vigilante Day for high school because we know that's a high drinking day. And so by giving them something fun to do that they normally can't do, we were hoping that they would come and partake in that. And Narrate Church had done that for like 3 years, and they had a huge following, and then didn't do it for 2 years, so we kind of picked it up. We had 18 teams, which was pretty good for the first year, and we're looking at hopefully doubling that for this year. But that'll be high school and adults.
Right. I've always yearned to do that, but I probably hurt myself if I went playing dodgeball because I think I was 12 again or something.
Right.
Okay. So any other activities or any other things that we should be looking at to keep kids safe now and throughout the year?
Well, I mean, especially when school gets out, same thing as what we see in the summer is they're not supervised, and so need to know where they are and what they're doing and when they'll be home and who they're hanging out with. And it's really, and it's not just on the parents, but really about the community and your neighborhood. Like if your kids, you're seeing a gang of kids out in the neighborhood, go out and what are you guys doing? And it's really part of our 40 developmental assets, which is right in the middle of the magazine, where we highlight with pictures ways so that kids feel safe and know that they're appreciated, and giving them jobs in the community. And so we try to tie all that in.
Okay, so you've talked about the magazine. Before we started, you talked about just sort of wrapping up this issue.
Yep.
If you're not getting it in a regular fashion, where does a person get this?
We mail it to every family in the Helena School District and then send it home with East Helena kiddos. But we also place it in 50 locations around town. So a lot of the doctor's offices that cater to kids and families, YMCA, the library, and it's always online on our webpage. So you can always look at it there, and past issues too.
If everyone's curious what these 40 things are, that's the place to go.
Yes, yep.
Or watch the mail, or watch them for delivery if you have kids in school. Okay. And so what else should we be talking about? What's exciting for Youth Connections right now?
Well, we were excited to get a Vista and share that with the YMCA. And so she has really helped get the Pure Performance program up and running. So we brought in John Underwood in September. And I mean, he's the one that started the whole program, and it's in high schools across the country with great success. And now we've got Capital on board. We're very excited about that. And so they meet every other week, both groups do, and just really trying to change the culture at the high school, where the norm is living a healthy lifestyle to include sleep and nutrition, central nervous system recovery, and not doing drugs and alcohol. So there's a huge push and we held a screening of a movie called Screenagers that really talked about all of the screen time that kids are on, upwards of 10 hours a day, and that's not homework or schoolwork. And so what it's doing to their eyes and their brains and relationships and all sorts of things. And I just read an article yesterday about how important it is for kids to have a job and do manual work because it gives them a break from being on online all the time and in front of their phones. And kids even say, this is such a nice break that I don't have to be on my phone all the time. So there's a real tie-in with giving them a sense of pride and teaching them things and really helping with that central nervous system recovery of just doing nothing. Well, not working. I mean, working's doing something, but giving them a break from other stuff.
We get together with our grandkids every so often and just going out and walking the dogs. But the thing that always surprises me still is they love playing board games. Just so unscreen related.
Yes.
And just moving pieces around a board and money and Monopoly or whatever. It's fascinating to me that it's still of interest. And probably it's what you're just describing. It unplugs you and gives you a different pace.
Well, and as much as we don't believe it and kids tell us, they really do like to spend time with their parents and with adults. And so giving them the opportunity to, have some downtime and play some games, and they really do enjoy that, even though they might roll their eyes and say they don't like it. They do. We hear that they do.
What age do you think the eye rolling kicks in?
Oh gosh, it seems like it's younger and younger all the time. I don't know. I hear of, second graders like, oh, my child is, rolling her eyes at me.
I'm a firm believer that the true currency of the world is attention.
Yes.
And my experience is you hear these words like, watch me, check this out, look at this.
Yep.
These are all saying, I want attention.
Yes.
And then the flip side is if they don't get that attention, they do something that will get the negative attention because it's still attention.
Yep.
And so I don't know. We're pushing 12 on grandkids now, and they still want attention. They don't roll their eyes, and they like to spend time. So I think it goes probably a lot farther than we expect.
Oh yeah, and even high school. I mean, like when we did the dodgeball tournament, our winning team was the Spanish club from Capital. And so they had a teacher and then a bunch of kids that were in the club. And I mean, they just really enjoyed hanging out with their teacher and with each other. And I mean, I hear that a lot of times that the kids, over at HMS, they do a breakfast club, and every Friday kids come in and have breakfast, and there's teachers there, and the kids love that. And even there was a story last month, I think, that there are kids at high school now that still come back to visit because that was such an important piece to them. So can't be underestimated how relationships are so important. And I mean, that ties in with the ACEs conversation, the adverse childhood experiences, and building resiliency in kids. And it's really about having a relationship with a caring adult, whether it's a parent or an aunt or uncle or teacher or neighbor or your music teacher or your Boy Scout leader or whatever it is. It's having that relationship.
I think it actually ties into something even bigger as a lifetime success thing. It's just the ability to create relationship with, to some degree, anybody, but at least with people that you need to be in relationship to get what you want out of life.
Absolutely. Well, and even, again, I keep reading these articles about kids and teamwork and having a job, and there's kids that graduate from college that have never worked, and then they go to get a job and they don't know how to have a relationship and work with a team and carry on a conversation. And it's really, I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg as far as what all this social media and all this screen time and all this is going to do to society. Sadly.
Scary.
I know. Very scary.
Anything else that you're working on that we should be chatting about?
Well, we're always looking for funding.
That shameless plug is the most important thing you can do at this time of year.
Right. So we do get grant funding through a prevention block grant, which pays for time to do our work, which is very important, but doesn't pay for programming. So any of the alternative activities that we want to do with kids, if we want to give them prizes or give them snacks or rent a facility or pay for posters or any of that, that we have to beg, borrow, and steal for. And 50% of the donations, as you know, come in between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve. So
we're in the thick of it right now. And the easiest way for someone to give, website?
Absolutely, yep. And on our Facebook page, there's a donate button there. So pretty easy either way. Try and keep kids drug and alcohol free. That's the biggest key to their success as far as graduation, academics, sports, life. need to give them that opportunity.
And really, it's an investment in the future.
Absolutely.
Because they are our future. It's
Right.
cliche, but it is one of those cliches that's the absolute truth. And so it's a perfect time to invest in the future.
Yep.
Want to leave it on that, or do we have anything else?
I think I've shared as much as I can.
You can. Okay, well,
Yeah.
super. I appreciate you coming on. Keep getting us back up to speed on what you're working on in the schools, and that now is the perfect time to support the work that you guys do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great day.